Okay.
Hey everybody, today we're going to take a look at Schumann's Scenes from Childhood, Opus 15. This is one of his earlier works, and we're going to look at the first song, which is called From Foreign Lands and People. So before we jump into this, let's have a listen to what it sounds like. So what I plan to do is teach you the hands alone and then slowly put them together and all the physical moves necessary to pull that off. But before doing that, let's look at how this piece is set up. Specifically, what is the architecture of this piece? And your first 8 bars, this, here's the 5th, 6th bar, 7th, 8th bar. So that's called the A section, and the A section is repeated. And if you've ever listened to a song like I Got Rhythm, so that's the A section. That was 8 bars, and then that repeats. So the particular song form is called A, and then B, or the bridge, which is different material, and then down here you're back to the A section again. So you have a total of A, B, A. Now the B section of the song is the section that introduces something different than the A section. Otherwise the song would be boring. So in I Got Rhythm, the B section is this. Which is very different from. And additionally, the bridge usually uses different chord changes than the A section, and that's also the case with this piece. So let's see how this bridge varies, or the B section of this piece varies from the A section. Well, the A section is a straightforward melody, nice melody. When I'm playing it, I think a little kid sitting around in a classroom and someone is lecturing them about people in different lands, and they're sitting there enraptured as they listen. And then you get to the bridge, and suddenly there's this element of ooh, a little scary. And what's happening here is you're going through a sequence. You're going through melodically a sequence. So this is very different than the A section. And then you have this little extra 2 bars with a pause. Additionally, the chords are very different in the bridge or B section from the A section. A section, you have G major, G, B, D, you have C sharp diminished 7th, C sharp, E, G, B flat, which functions as a kind of A 7th to bring you to D. Here's D major in 2nd inversion, and then you have D 7th. And the F sharp is down here in the bass. And then you have G, the diminished chord, you have D again, and you have D 7th, then you have G again, and then you have G in 1st inversion with the B on the bottom, and then you have your first instance of the 4 chord of C. And both of these chords are C major. This is C with the root in the bass, and here with the 3rd in the bass in 1st inversion. And then you have what's called a sus chord. So I have a D in the bass, and I have the D and the C and the A in the melody are all elements of a D 7th chord, but I have this G right here, so the net result is this. And this is a suspended dissonant note which resolves down to this F sharp. And now you got a full D 7th there. See? And then that brings you back to the 1 chord G. So getting back to the bridge, we saw that the melody was a sequence, but the actual harmonies underlying the melody are also sequential. You have an E minor, E, G, B, you have an A minor, and you have a D, and you have a G, and then you have a C major, and then you have an F sharp diminish, and then you have a B. And if we kept going around this sequence, we would eventually come back to an E minor. And that's called a circular progression. But Schumann surprises us, and all great music has surprises. So if he did this, and played an E minor there, that would be expected. But he surprises us and does this. And there he gives us a G major. We're wondering, what's going to happen here? What is this? And then he throws in the 3rd, and we go, that's G major. See? And those 4 bars aren't good enough to get you back to the A section. Let's see. So if we did this. We can't just go, just can't do that. So he has to put in something a little better that will naturally lead us back to this melody. And look at what he does. He starts down here with an E, he plays a C chord, and then a D, D 7th, and then a G. But look at what the melody's doing. It's funny, I played this piece thousands of times. And when I end up explaining it to people, I learn things about it that I was never really conscious of. But look what he does here. He brings you all the way down here. So, and he's going lower and lower and lower and lower, and then he goes down to here, which is normal. That's a normal thing, right? Following this. That would be in keeping with the sequence. But now he's got to get us back up to this D, which is 7 notes above that. So look what he does. He climbs the ladder. he pauses there, and he's back in business. So that's pretty cool. All right, let's look at some other interesting things about the piece. You have a melody in the right hand, nice melody. It's memorable, right? You can sing it in the car, wherever you're going. It's very memorable. Germans are the greatest melodists ever. You have Bach, Mozart, Beethoven. These are the Schubert. These are the greatest melodists ever. That's why it's so enjoyable. So you have that melody in the right hand, and then look at the bass notes. You have a little melody here. Not as interesting as a melody, still melodic. And you as the pianist have to be aware of all of these notes. You should be able to walk down the street and hear this in your head. And you always have to play the bass about 4 times as much as the right hand, because the right hand has a memorable melody. The bass really doesn't. So you got to play it a lot and get it into your head. Okay? Now if you put those two things together, you have something very interesting. So you start with GB, root in the third of G, and then they go in opposite directions. You have this tritone here, resolving to a third. Right? Like we did in our tritone episode. Tritone lessons. So we have root in the third, G and B, this tritone resolving inward to D and F sharp. Now look at what happens. This particular maneuver in composition is called a root third interchange. We have the root in the third up here, then the bass comes up to the third, and the root and the right hand or the upper melody, soprano melody, comes down from the third to the root. So we have third to the root, root to the third. They're interchanging. Let's see how that sounds again. Right? And what's cool is this is going up, making an upward arc. This is making a lower arc. And then that happens again. So they really complement each other. Now look at this. Now he's got to change up. He's got to do something different. He's still going B to a G, but now he's going to do a root third interchange here. This is all G major. So he goes root third, and then he puts the third in the bass and the root in the right hand, in the soprano. And that brings us then to C major. This is all C major here. Look, C, E, G, E, C, E, G, C, G. The only thing is this passing tone of a D. So he brings it now to C major. So we go. Now we're at C major, root and third, and look what happens. He does the third root, does the root third interchange again. All right? And now he brings you to a D7th suspended. All right, well, I'm sorry, we're talking about the two outer voices. This is a D and an A, and that's colorless, really. And this octave is colorless, and then you have the G and the B, which is full of color, and then the G here. All right, G here, G here. I never mentioned what I'm talking about with colors. When you have an interval of a third or a blown out third, like a G to a B, these are colorful intervals. They're called consonant intervals, and they're colorful. And their inversions are colorful. So if you have a G to a B, say like this, and then you flip it over, and say you put the B down under the G, it's still very colorful, okay? So very often in music like this, you'll find these colorful intervals, thirds. So here's a third, here's a D to F sharp is a third, here's an F sharp. So you'll see a third or an inversion of a third, which is a sixth. So we have third, tritone, third, sixth, third, tritone, third, D to F sharp, see, sixth. Then we have third, sixth, B to G, right? And then another third, C to E, and then another sixth, E to C. So these are all colorful intervals, and this is the first place here where we don't have color. So we have this. It's kind of like this flat. And we don't get color until we hear that, until we hear this D and the F sharp here. And here we have color, G and B, okay? So that's interesting. So on the right hand, as opposed to the left hand, we have contrary motion. We start, it gets wider apart, gets closer and closer, then we start, gets wider apart, and the voices are moving in contrary motion very often. Let's see what happens in the bridge now. So look at the left hand. So it's definitely sequential. And right hand goes out. Now both hands come in towards each other. Now they go out. Now they come in towards each other. Sorry. And now they go out. And now they come in. All right. So you have sequential melody. And you have sequential bass. Right? And then you even have what's going on with the separation of the voices sequential with out, in, out, all right? So that's interesting. Okay, you get down here and there's nothing. The interesting thing here is he's holding the C in the bass. He plays a C, right? And then he plays a D7th. And he keeps that C, and that resolves down to a B of the G chord. So what's happening here is the two melodies are starting, and then they're getting wider and wider apart. So you have okay, so that's it for today. I think that'll give you a lot to think about and to explore. And next time we're going to start, I'm going to show you how to play the right hand melody. There's one other thing. Before we go to that, which I completely left out, there are the chords in the middle. So this by itself is kind of bleak. That's nice, but wouldn't it be nice to have chords? And what he does is he supplies the chords with this inner triplet figure. So look at this. There's G major, first inversion. Then you have three of the elements of the diminished chord. Here you have D major and second inversion. Here you have the elements of a D7th chord, the 7th, the root, and the 5th. So you have this. Accompanying the two, the melody in the right hand and the bass. And this goes on, this repeats. And then we come down here and look at what we have. We have G major. Then we have root, fifth, root here. And we don't need the third because the third's in the bass. Okay? And then we have in C major, fifth, third, fifth. And the C is in the bottom. And then we have same thing almost. Here we had all within C major. And then we have the sus thing where the G is a dissonant actually, which resolves down to an F sharp. So last line here, second line I mean, we have okay? And then in the bridge, the melody, this triplet melody attaches to each of the bass notes each time. It's interesting, look. And it goes on like that. Except for here, it breaks. So you see how this could be 3 different instruments or 3 different people singing. All this music comes from voice, you know. We call this 3 voices going on at once. Composers do this, 3 different voices. And each one has a certain function. So your treble is the nice melody. The bass defines the chords you're playing, you know, playing the roots, the thirds, whatever. So you kind of know what key you're playing in, even though you're not playing the chords. And then the chords add all this color, the color of a full chord. And so you see that there's a lot of craft. You know, these guys, Schumann, he just didn't sit down and do this in 5 seconds like Mozart would or Schubert. This was worked out very carefully, and I hope you appreciate that. So next time we'll look at the right hand, and I'll teach you how to do that, and little by little we'll get through this. All right, so I hope you enjoyed that, and we'll see you next time.